Dimmesdale! 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 First word for chapter 11 is imbue or imbued, and it means to kind of permeate your influence all over the place. Successful 8th grade girls are able to imbue their wretched influence beyond just their lunch table. Ethereal. Ethereal means kind of heavenly or just outside the atmosphere in the ether of the earth, as it were. It also has this kind of transient aspect to it in that it could disappear at any time. It's kind of intangible, like the ethereal beauty of a rainbow. As soon as you notice it, it might be gone. Penance is an act of expiation or self-abasement or mortification or something that shows that you're sorry for what you've done. And Dimmesdale has lots of ways he shows or demonstrates his penance in this chapter. Chapter 11 is called The Interior of a Heart. In particular, it is the interior of Dimmesdale's heart. And as much as we might harbor some pretty intense anger and frustration at the hypocrite that Dimmesdale is, he certainly is suffering, and he is punishing himself for what he has done. Whether that's enough or not really depends on how you look at it, and certainly Hawthorne has his own ideas. Just keep reading. The first quotes from this chapter that I've selected come from paragraph 5. And if you've read any of Hawthorne's other short stories, particularly The Minister's Black Veil, you'll definitely see some overlap when it comes to a minister hiding some secret sin. The people knew not the power that moved them thus. This is in regards to the fact that somehow Arthur Dimmesdale's sermons have become quite powerful. They deemed the young clergyman a miracle of holiness. They fancied him the mouthpiece of heaven's messages of wisdom and rebuke and love. In their eyes, the very ground on which he trod was sanctified. The virgins of his church grew pale around him, victims of a passion so imbued with religious sentiment that they imagined it to be all religion, and brought it openly in their white bosoms as their most acceptable sacrifice before the altar. Good heavens, Hawthorne. But the point is, the more that Dimmesdale punishes himself, the more that he chastises himself for his sin, publicly and privately, the more he is revered, and that just simply adds to his hypocrisy. As Dimmesdale's mental and physical health deteriorates, he imagines on more than one occasion that he has been quite forthright with his parishioners and told them everything, but he doesn't quite tell them everything. More than once, nay, this is paragraph 7, more than once, nay, more than 100 times, he had actually spoken. Spoken, but how? He had told his hearers that he was altogether vile, a viler companion of the vilest, the worst of sinners, an abomination, a thing of unimaginable iniquity. And at the only wonder that they did not see his wretched body shriveled up before their eyes by the burning wrath of the Almighty. Very Jonathan Edwards. Could there be plainer speech than this? Well, Dimmesdale, you could tell them you slept with Hester Prynne, but just an idea. Would not the people start up in their seats by a simultaneous impulse and tear him down out of the pulpit which he defiled? No, not so indeed. They heard it all, and but did reverence him the more. They little guessed what deadly purport lurked in those condemning words. Thy godly youth, they said among themselves. The saint on earth, alas, if he discerned such sinfulness in his own white soul, what horrid spectacle would he behold in thine or mine? The minister well knew, subtle, remorseful hypocrite that he was, little narrator shout out there, the light in which his vague confession would be viewed. And yet, by the constitution of his nature, he loved the truth, and loathed to lie, as few men ever did. Therefore, above all things, he loathed his miserable self. His inward trouble drove him to practices more in accordance with the old corrupted faith in Rome. Have you seen the Da Vinci Code? Than with the better light of the church in which he had been born and bred. In Mr. Dimmesdale's secret closet, under lock and key, there was a bloody scourge, or whip. Oftentimes this Protestant and Puritan divine had plied it on his own shoulders, laughing bitterly at himself all the while, and smiting so much the more piteously because of that bitter laugh. It was his custom, too, as it has been in the many other pious Puritans, to fast, not however like them in order to purify the body and render it the fitter medium of celestial illumination, but rigorously, and until his knees trembled beneath him, as an act of penance. Dimmesdale whips himself, he starves himself, and the rest of the chapter details these kind of forced insomniatic evenings where he maintains vigil, staring at himself at the mirror and contemplating his sin. And as the chapter comes to a close, he decides to take his vigil outside of the house and onto the scaffold.